The galactic community, a vast web of 112 spacefaring species, had known war. They had known betrayal, famine, and the slow decay of empires. But they had never known a conflict so savage that the very mention of its creator would turn the void cold. That was before they met humanity. For 3,000 galactic cycles, the Council of Six Thrones had kept the peace. The graceful Avar, with their wings of crystalline light, mediated disputes. The burly, four-armed Vornik enforced the law with patient strength. The ethereal Xylos, beings of pure thought, stored the collective memory of the galaxy. They believed they had seen everything. They were wrong. The trouble began on the fringe world of Carrickvellum, a dusty mining planet claimed by the brutal Nithrug Empire. The Nithrug were a species bred for Wartall, scaled, with teeth like shattered glass. They conquered worlds not for resources, but for the joy of breaking things. When they stumbled upon a small human exploration vessel, the Odyssey of Hope, they did not see a first contact. They saw prey. The Nithrug warship's sole drinker disabled the human ship with a single, lazy ion blast. The human captain, a woman named Alara Vance, sent out a standard greeting in 12 frequencies. She offered trade, knowledge, and friendship. The Nithrug commander, a brute named Krask, responded by broadcasting the death screams of her first officer as his claws tore through the airlock. He laughed. Then he boarded the Odyssey of Hope. What Krask did not know was that human history was a library of survival. Every human ship carried a failsafe. Not a bomb, but something older. Captain Vance, with her last breath, activated the Phoenix Protocol. It did not kill the Nithrug. It did something far more terrifying. It recorded everything. Every face, every word, every genetic marker of every Nithrug who set foot on her vessel. Then it broadcast that data across the galaxy on a frequency no one else could break. It was a challenge. It was a promise. The Council of Six Thrones received the transmission 3 days later. The Avar ambassador wept. The Vornik ambassador growled low in his throats. The Xylos became silent, a sign of deep dread. They knew the Nithrug had made a mistake, but they did not yet understand the scale. Humanity did not send a formal declaration of war. They did not send diplomats. They sent a single, unmarked cargo vessel to the edge of Nithrug space. The vessel did not fire a shot. It simply opened its hold and released a cloud of nanits microscopic robots so small they looked like dust. The Nithrug patrols ignored it. Dust was nothing. Within one standard cycle, that dust had eaten the circuitry of every Nithrug warship in 3 star systems. Engines failed. Life support died. Weapons melted into slag. But no one died. The humans did not kill them. The humans had made them helpless. They left the Nithrug crews floating in their dead ships, broadcasting a single message on loop. You wanted a fight. You do not understand what that means. The galaxy held its breath. The Nithrug, humiliated and furious, sent their greatest fleet 10,000 warships to the human home system, which they called Sol. They had mapped it from old transmissions. It was a yellow star with 8 planets, the third one blue and green. They expected a last stand. They expected fire and glory. Instead, they found nothing. The human homeworld was empty. No cities, no lights, no transmissions. Just silent oceans and abandoned forests. The Nithrug landed their armies. They marched through empty human streets. They found beds still warm, meals half-eaten on tables. It was as if the entire species had simply stood up and walked into the mist. Krask, now leading the invasion, felt the first cold touch of fear. He did not know where the enemy was. That was the worst part. Then the second message came. Not from Sol, but from the heart of the Nithrug homeworld itself. A human voice, calm and clear, spoke on every screen, every radio, every neural implant. You are standing in our abandoned houses. Look up. Every Nithrug on every ship, on every colony, on their home planet, looked up. The sky was filled with human ships. Not thousands. Not millions. Billions. They had not been hiding. They had been building. For every Nithrug warship, the humans had built 1,000. For every Nithrug soldier, they had 1,000,000. The humans had watched the Nithrug for years, learning their tactics, their psychology, their fears. And they had prepared a response that was not war. It was annihilation, but the humans did not fire. Not yet. Instead, they offered a choice. A single human admiral, a man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much, appeared on the Nithrug screens. His name was Admiral Jonas Thorne. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He spoke like a farmer explaining to a child why you do not kick a beehive. You made a mistake when you killed Captain Vance. You thought she was weak because she offered peace. You thought her kindness was a flaw. It was not. It was a warning. Our kind has survived ice ages, planet-killer asteroids, and our own stupidity. We have a saying, do not mistake our restraint for weakness. Our cruelty is a tool we keep in a locked box. You just broke the lock, he paused. The galaxy listened. Here is our offer. Surrender every Nithrug who participated in the Odyssey of Hope massacre. Pay reparations to the families of the dead. And disband your military forever. In return, we will not turn your homeworld into a vacuum. You have one standard day. The Nithrug Emperor, a bloated creature named Vrak the Unbroken, laughed on public broadcast. He called the humans soft, sentimental apes. He ordered his fleets to fire. 10,000 Nithrug warships opened fire on the human fleet. The laser beams, plasma bolts, and kinetic rounds crossed the void. They hit nothing. The human ships were not there. They had moved not faster than light, but smarter than light. They had predicted every firing solution, every angle, every possible trajectory. They had been inside the Nithrug tactical computers for weeks. The human response was not a battle. It was a surgery. Admiral Thorne gave a single order. Remove the teeth. Human ships, small and nimble, darted through the Nithrug fleet. They did not aim for life support or engines. They aimed for weapons. Every gun, every missile tube, every power conduit for every weapon on every ship was targeted with pinpoint precision. In 17 minutes, the entire Nithrug fleet was intact but toothless. They could fly. They could breathe. They could not fight. They could only float and watch. Then the humans landed on the Nithrug homeworld. They did not bomb cities. They did not execute civilians. They walked into the Imperial Palace past guards who had thrown down their weapons. Admiral Thorne stood before Emperor Vrak, who now trembled on his obsidian throne. Thorne placed a single object on the arm of the throne. It was a simple wooden box. Inside was a recording device. Press play, Thorne said. Vrak pressed play. The recording was of Captain Alara Vance's final moments. Her voice, calm even as Krast's claws tore into her crew, said, to whatever being finds this, do not hate the Nithrug. Hate what they have become. Hate the system that made them. And remember us. We were kind. Until we were not. Vrak looked up. Thorne was gone. The human fleet was gone. They had vanished as completely as they had appeared. The only thing left was a galactic-wide data broadcast. It was a map of every single Nithrug military installation, every secret base, every hidden shipyard, every black site prison. And next to each location was a time stamp. Every one of them, from the smallest outpost to the largest fortress, had been visited by humans in the last hour. Every single one was a crater. The Nithrug Empire did not surrender. It collapsed. Its soldiers threw down their weapons. Its admirals resigned. Its emperor, Vrak the Unbroken, was found dead in his throne room. The cause of death was not violence. It was a stress-induced heart failure, brought on by the simple, terrifying realization that his species had never been in control. They had been allowed to exist. And now, they were not, but the story did not end there. The galaxy, now trembling, expected humanity to take the Nithrug's place. They expected a human empire, brutal and absolute. The Council of Six Thrones prepared surrender documents. The Avar offered subservience. The Vornik offered their fleets. The Xylos offered their entire memory library. Humanity refused. Admiral Thorne, speaking from a small, unremarkable asteroid base, said, "We do not want your submission. We want you to learn." The Nithrug did not fall because we were stronger. They fell because they believed cruelty was strength. It is not. Strength is building something that does not need to be cruel. Strength is Captain Vance, who died offering peace to a monster. Remember her. Not us. The galaxy did remember. For the next 100 cycles, the mention of humanity caused a visible shudder. Not from fear of attack. From the memory of what happened when kindness was pushed too far. Every species rewrote their military doctrines. Every empire installed new first contact protocols. Wars became rare. Diplomacy became sacred. Because no one, not the proudest Avar, nor the most battle-hardened Vornik, wanted to see what was in that locked box again. There was, however, one final twist. A century after the war, a small Xylos exploration vessel found something strange near an abandoned human deep space station. It was a garden. A beautiful, lush garden of alien plants from 100 worlds floating in a pressurized dome. In the center of the garden was a statue. It was not of a general or an admiral. It was of Captain Alara Vance. Her hand was outstretched, palm open, as if offering something. At the base of the statue, carved in every known language, were the words, "She offered peace first." That was not weakness. That was the bravest thing she ever did. The Xylos, who remembered everything, added this to their memory library. And they noted, in a quiet footnote, that human ships were still out there, watching. Not as conquerors. Not as gods. As gardeners. They tended the garden of the galaxy, pruning the weeds of cruelty before they could grow. And every time a new species reached for the stars, the first thing they saw was a human vessel, hanging silent and patient, with a single message repeating on all frequencies, "Welcome. Be kind, or we will show you why kindness is the scariest thing we have." The galaxy never forgot. And they never stopped shuddering. Not from cold. From the memory of a conflict so savage that it had no battles, no heroes, no glory. Only a lesson, carved into the void itself. Do not test the patience of a species that has already survived itself. One last piece remained hidden, known only to the highest levels of the Council. The humans had not just dismantled the Nithrig military. They had rewritten their children's textbooks. They had inserted a single chapter, written by Admiral Thorne himself, into every Nithrig learning module. It was a simple story. A fable about a farmer who found a wounded Volf. The farmer nursed the Volf back to health, and the Volf repaid the farmer by eating his sheep. The farmer did not kill the Volf. He simply built a stronger fence. And he taught his children that a Volf is not evil. It is just a Volf. But a farmer who forgets how to build fences is a fool. The Nithrig children grew up reading that fable. They grew up knowing exactly why their empire had fallen. Not because humans were monsters. Because humans were better at building fences. And the first fence they built was around their own hearts, to keep the Volf of cruelty locked inside. The Nithrug had broken that fence. They had let the Volf out. And the galaxy had learned that the Volf's name was not humanity. The Volf's name was what humanity became when fences failed. That was the true horror. Not the power. Not the technology. The knowledge that somewhere, deep in the human psyche, there was a switch. And if you flipped it, the kindest species in the galaxy would become the most savage thing the void had ever known. And they would do it not with rage, but with the cold, mathematical precision of a gardener pulling weeds. The Avar ambassador, old and wise, once asked a human diplomat why they bothered with peace at all. The human, a young woman with tired eyes, smiled. "Because once you unleash the Volf," she said, "you can never put it back. And we like being kind. It costs us nothing. But it costs you everything if you force us to stop." The ambassador never asked again. And every night, for the rest of his long life, he dreamed of a garden floating in the dark, with a statue of a woman offering peace to a monster. And he woke up grateful that the monster had said no. Because if the monster had said yes, no one would have ever known what was locked inside the kindest hearts in the galaxy. The story spread, not as a warning, but as a reminder. When the next ambitious species rose, eyeing the territories of the weak, their elders would sit them down and tell them the tale of the Odyssey of Hope. They would tell them about Captain Vance, who died with an open hand. They would tell them about Admiral Thorne, who built a fence around a Volf. And they would tell them about the garden, still growing in the dark, watered by the memory of a conflict so savage that the galaxy shudders at the mention of humanity. But they would also tell them the final secret. The one the Xylos recorded but never broadcast. The human fleet, the billions of ships, had not been built for war. They had been built for the opposite. Every single human vessel was a generation ship, designed to carry a piece of humanity to every corner of the galaxy. The war with the Nithrug had simply been a detour, a necessary correction. After it was over, the humans continued their original mission. They spread out, not as conquerors, but as seeds. Every planet that could support life, they touched. Every species that was alone, they watched over. They became the silent guardians of the galaxy. Not because they were strong, but because they had once been weak. And they remembered, the Nithrig, now a peaceful species with no military, slowly rebuilt. They remembered, too. Their children grew up without the hunger for conquest. Their artists painted pictures of Captain Vance, their poets wrote songs about the garden, and their historians wrote the final line of their civilization's greatest tragedy. We thought we were the wolves. We were wrong. We were the sheep who broke the farmer's fence. And the farmer, merciful and terrible, did not eat us. He simply fixed the fence. And we have been grateful ever since. The galaxy did not shudder from hatred. It shuddered from awe, because humanity had done the impossible. They had won a war so completely that the loser thanked them. They had unleashed a conflict so savage that the only casualty was cruelty itself. And they had vanished into the dark, not as ghosts, but as gardeners. So when you look up at the stars tonight, remember this story. And if you see a strange light moving against the current of the cosmos, do not fear it. It might be a human ship. It might be a farmer checking on his fence. And if you are kind, it will pass you by. But if you are cruel, it will stop. And it will whisper, in a voice as old as survival, you wanted a fight. You do not understand what that means, and then it will show you.